Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hesham Tillawi. Exciting 2 hours coming ahead, ladies and gentlemen. In the first hour, we will be speaking with Henry Makow about he's Jewish, and I really want to understand what is going on with he has conflicting ideas. He himself really does not know what it means to be Jewish, so we're going to talk to him about this. And I want you to have an open mind because we need to understand this Jewish thing that we always talk about. Why do we talk about it so much? Why is it that for years and years and years it was not something that you hear a lot in the news, and you still don't hear a lot about it in the news, only in alternative media? Why are we talking about it so much? In the first hour, you will find out why is it really that important. And in the second hour, we will be speaking with a gentleman, Professor Don Wagner from North Park University in Chicago. I have been really wanting to get this guy on for about probably 2 years now, and finally we were able to hook up with him, and he will be with us. The only thing is, make sure you're here in the second hour, the first part of the second hour, because he's only going to be with us for 30 minutes. And he's going to talk about the Christian right, or as I like to call him, the Christian wrong. Why is it so important to talk about that too? You will find out in the second hour. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to Henry, I was on my way coming to the studio. I was listening to Bill O'Reilly, and he was talking about a writer, internet writer on NBC, I believe, NBC Internet. I forgot the name of the guy, William Goggin, something like that, but that's not really important. What's important is what Bill O'Reilly said about this guy. Now, this guy supposedly wrote an article saying that we have a bunch of mercenaries in Iraq killing people there, and a lot of people are taking issue with this guy. And Bill O'Reilly went as far as saying that, NBC should have told us up front what this guy's agenda is. And I'm thinking, what is your agenda, Bill O'Reilly? What say you, Bill? What's your agenda? What's Fox's agenda? What's Sean Hannity's agenda? Did Fox come out and tell us what Sean Hannity is all about? Did they come out and tell us what you are all about? What is your agenda? I'm sure you have one. Otherwise, they will not put you on nationwide for all these millions to listen to you and hear from you. So, now, this guy called some of these people fighting mercenaries. Guess what? They are. Now, we have a lot of good people out there in Iraq fighting because they were told to go and defend the country, and that's why they went there. But then we also have probably just as many people who went there for the money. People are leaving the British Army, they are leaving the United States Army to go back to Iraq so they can get the $10,000 and the $15,000 a month from Blackwater and from khakis, the private army, so to speak. Well, no, so to speak, that's what it is. It's private army. And they give $10,000. So if anyone wants money, go ahead. Because our guys are leaving the army so they can join these. If you're going to get out there and kill some people and probably be killed, they might as well get paid for it. And that's what a mercenary is. When you go out there, you have your life in your hand. So, agenda. Before you talk about agenda, Bill O'Reilly, you have an agenda that you need to tell people what that agenda is. I'm sure probably some of you have received something, especially if you have boys and girls probably who are teenagers. You probably received one of these. If we can go to camera 3 and show this, okay? Now, this is something that probably millions are going out there in the mail, and they want you to join the Marines, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with joining the Marines, But what I had, I don't know, maybe someone can call and explain this to us. To me, this right here, if you go on camera 3 somewhere, let's see, we are like this, okay? Now, to me, that's on the Marine's saber sword. To me, that's an Israeli star. That's a Jewish star. Now, I know some people might say, even, in Muslim traditions, they have used a 6-pointed star, but this is definitely the way it's made, and it's on the American Marines saber. So maybe someone can tell me the connections there. I've never been in the Army. I have no clue of why this star is on the Marine saber, but maybe you can call and set me straight on that. But I just found it interesting to have that on there. So maybe someone can call and let us know what's going on. There was another story that I wanted to mention to you. It happened in Oklahoma City, where an Arkansas woman, she's Muslim, and they have stopped her for, I guess, traffic violation or speeding or whatever. Very minor traffic violations that millions of Americans commit probably every week. I don't know if we have millions throughout the nation who commit it every day, but this is what the story goes. This is how it went. The woman who lives in Arkansas and wears a religiously mandated headscarf, the veil, reported that she was inappropriately interrogated about her faith after being stopped for a minor traffic violation in Webbers Falls, Oklahoma. And the guy, there were 2 cops. One of them was asking her. Now, this one, she's not like a Middle Eastern Muslim or a Pakistani Muslim. This is a Western woman. This is an American woman who converted to Islam. And they were asking her, why did she convert to Islam? Did she know bin Laden? Does she know where he is? Did she know that he was going to send airplanes to hit the World Trade Center? And then they start searching her car. They find a book in the trunk with Arabic script on it. A book in Arabic. And the guy flipped, and he called his buddy over, and it's like, oh, look what we have here. Yeah, a book in Arabic. There are thousands of languages out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just English. And if you see a book in a different language, don't freak out. Well, anyhow, the woman, the city council, this happened in November, but I might say that there are still some liberal heads out there, because the city council in that city, in that town, they fired one of the cops and the other one is on leave until the investigation is over with. But let's calm down and be smart about this stuff. Don't listen to this garbage that you listen to from Fox News, from CNN, and all these media with agenda. Be smarter than that, ladies and gentlemen. Be smarter than that. A Muslim woman driving, they stop her and interrogate her about bin Laden? Come on. Can't find anything else to do? And then flipping after he finds a book in Arabic? Welcome to America. Welcome to the United States of America. All right, I have Rick on line 1. Go ahead, Rick.
How you doing, Doctor? This is regarding the Marine Corps sword.
Yes.
I was in the Marines 20 years ago or so.
Yes.
And I knew nothing about that stuff on there, because I never really looked. But that comes from the Marmaluke sword from the British. And I called up your show once and told you that the star was on those swords. It's also on the Coast Guard sword, the Army, and the Navy sword.
Now, let me ask you something, Rick. I mean, I remember the call, and I remember we showed the picture, but I really, coming to my house, it was a little bit too much. Now, when you were in the Marine Corps, go ahead and put the picture back up on the screen. When you, did you hold the saber? I mean, did you see it?
Well, it's an officer sword. Doctor, and I wasn't an officer. And it was given to the Americans, Presley O'Bannon, I believe, after his attack on Tripoli, I believe, from the English. And I've looked at the original Marmaluke sword that was from the English, and it also has a Jewish star on it. So, we've been bamboozled. And regarding O'Reilly, every time O'Reilly talks about hate speech, somebody ought to get up and say, if Jesus Christ came tomorrow and said the same things he said 2,000 years ago, O'Reilly would be the first one to call him a hater.
That's true.
And that's all I have to say, Doctor. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Rick. Thank you. Okay. I think I need that little thing. And do we have Henry on? Henry, can you hear me? Henry, are you with me? Okay, I can't hear him. Henry? Okay. Let's see. Henry, if you can hear me, just continue talking until we get your voice back here in the studio. Okay. Anything? Henry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, yep.
Okay, very good. Very good. Now we are in business. Henry, welcome to the show, sir.
Glad to be here, Hesham.
Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Makow is probably one of the people that you really need to go on his website and read some of his articles. And also his articles are all over the internet. He's very well read all over the internet with some of you may not agree with what Henry says, but at least Henry is an honest person in his opinion and in his feelings. He has passion to what he says. And Henry is a PhD, and also I believe, Henry, you invented the game Scruples, is it?
That's correct, yeah.
Yes. Henry, I want to talk to you tonight about a subject that we have talked about a lot, and a lot of our viewers, sometimes they criticize us for talking too much about it, which is the Jews. I mean, they always basically blame us and accuse us of, we always say, the Jews this and the Jews that, which, by the way, we don't say that, but anytime we discuss anytime you discuss anything about Jewish or Jews, you can't win. You are going to be blamed and be labeled anytime you approach the subject. Now, I know you are Jewish.
Yeah, and I'd like to start, Hesham, by explaining what that actually means. You know that scene in Annie Hall where Woody Allen is invited to Annie Hall's family for Thanksgiving, and everyone sort of glances over at him, and he's dressed as a Hasid in black with long sideburns and the black. Whenever you hear someone say, "I'm a Jew," that image could flash to mind. But I want to start off by telling your listeners what I mean when I say I'm Jewish. I don't subscribe to the Jewish religion. I'm an assimilated Jew. Now, when I say I don't subscribe to the Jewish religion, I'm not even sure what the Jewish religion is, to tell you the truth. I'm an assimilated Jew. When I say I'm Jewish, that means my parents were Jewish. For me, it's an ethnic thing. It's a biological thing. And when I say I'm an assimilated Jew, it means I identify with my fellow Canadians, my fellow Americans, and with the human race. That's who I'm assimilated. I identify with the whole human race.
Okay.
I hope that explains it.
Well, actually, that opens up Pandora's box for me.
Okay.
What is... Now, do we have a definition, or how many types of Jews are there out there?
Well, I don't know. First of all, how many Jews are out there? That's a hell of a question too, you know. But there's probably I don't know, if there's 15 or 20 million Jews. I'd say there's probably at least half that many kinds of Jews. But well, there are a lot of different kinds of Jews. But you know, I write in order to let people know that all Jews are not Zionists. And I define Zionist as, well, Zionist is someone who believes in a Jewish homeland. But because they believe in a Jewish homeland, I believe they're being duped into supporting an agenda which is a lot bigger than that. I don't think Zionism was ever about a Jewish homeland. In fact, if Zionism were about establishing a Jewish homeland, there would be no Israel today. Zionism in Israel is really about establishing a beachhead for what we call British imperialism in the Middle East. That's what Zionism is really about, a beachhead for British imperialism in the Middle East. And when we say British imperialism, we're not talking about the British people. We're really talking about a financial entity, which is the City of London, which colonizes England, colonizes the United States, colonizes Europe, and colonizes Russia, and is in the process of colonizing the whole world and turning it into a one world government under the New World Order.
Okay, now what is that? Are you saying that's what Zionism is?
Yeah, Zionism is an instrument of this financial clique made up largely initially of the central banking cartel and all the other big world cartels, pharmaceutical, defense, media, food, and so on.
Okay. I tell you what, I want to go ahead and start talking about some of the ideas that you have written in your articles, which you've written probably hundreds of articles, but I picked up few thoughts that I wanted to discuss with you, and one of them is, the title of that article was "The Judeo-Messianic Roots of Modern Culture," and you're saying that modern culture is a product of the Luciferian conspiracy against Christian civilization. Tell me about that.
Well, it's essentially this cartel that I'm talking about, this banking cartel. They established the Bank of England in 1694. Now, it's last time I was on your show, I tried to explain this idea of a central bank. It's essentially the idea that a small group of families can create money by essentially just printing it, and it'll be guaranteed by the state. And that's the situation we have in the world today, and that's why the central banking cartel, which is private, has this incredible power, because they've essentially bought the cooperation and acquiescence of everybody they need. You follow me?
Yes.
And this started in 1694. So and the way they did it is they essentially put the king in power, and then they had the king give them this blank check.
Okay.
Now that was William of Orange. Now essentially they have a plan. I think it probably was older than 1694, but essentially they have a plan to create a 1,000-year, 2,000-year. They're basically overthrowing Christian-based Western civilization, and they're creating a brand new civilization, and they're doing it openly, and they expect it to last 1,000 years. And basically, they're remaking the human race. And now, these bankers, a lot of these banking families were Jewish, and they basically opened up the tent by through Freemasonry. They opened up the tent to include a whole bunch of non-Jews, and especially they aimed at all the aristocratic families of England and of Europe. And so it's a much bigger tent than now than just these Jewish banking families. And these Jewish banking families intermarried with these other aristocratic families, other rich families, and they are the power, the power behind the world today, and really I believe the power that's driving world events and has been driving world events since the beginning of the 18th century.
Okay.
Now,
Henry, let's just hold on for a second, because there's so much that we're going to talk about, and we're going to just tie in everything together, because you go on to say that relentlessly negative and increasingly obscene modern culture attacks the sources of dignity, decency, and hope that defines us as human beings rather than animals. How are they doing that? Because I know you have written another article where you said that there should be a sign, a label over every, a movie theater and even on TVs, a poison sign. What are you talking about when it comes?
Essentially, what I'm talking about is that they, in order to rule the world completely, in order to brainwash and control people, they need to sever our connection with God. And by God, I mean our natural path of development, spiritual development, whereby our spiritual ideals refine and transform our behavior. And by spiritual ideals, I mean justice, truth, beauty, love, harmony, and peace. You follow me?
Yes.
That's how I see God. I see God in terms of spiritual ideals.
Okay.
And this is what we all aspire to, I believe, in our hearts. And I believe that is what makes, and this is what characterizes Western civilization, is that men are not just animals concerned with food and sex. We have this sense of divinity, this sense of the spiritual ideal within us.
Okay. Now,
so naturally, they have to sever that, and so they have to tell us that God is dead, and and we're animals, and they have to tell us that our animal appetites are that. They have to tell us that we're already God, just the way we are, and that our animal appetites are actually quite divine. So they basically turn things on their head and say that what is animal is actually divine, and what is divine doesn't even exist.
Okay.
In other words, they control culture. Our modern Western culture.
Now, let me stop you right here, Henry. Let me stop you here. Now, you are singling out the Jews, though, for that they are causing this, they are doing this, correct?
No, I mean, I just said the opposite, that they opened up the tent, and so, and it's not...
But doesn't that mean that also their culture, their religion, is also fair game too?
Well, frankly, I think I have to do some more study, but many people believe that Freemasonry is based on Jewish Kabbalism. So yeah, it's quite possible that what is considered modern it has a large element of Jewish Kabbalism, and in fact could be considered Jewish, and they're under another name. It's quite possible. A lot of people say that.
Okay. Now, you talk about the Pharisees and their objection or rejection to Jesus, that Jesus was the natural continuation of God's original message, and the Pharisees, which they became later on, I guess as the Jews, and you said that they had basically adopted the Talmud and they forgot about the Torah, and that's why we are in the mess that we are in now. If they would have just listened to Jesus and went along with him, that this world would be a different world today?
Well, yes, definitely. And I'm a Jew who has accepted Jesus' teachings, although I don't believe he was God. I wish he were, and I'd be happy to hear that I'm wrong and that he is. But I believe that essentially Jesus represented the first baby step in evolution, and that is love thy neighbor. Mankind is a brotherhood. All human beings are brothers. God is love. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. In other words, Jesus was mankind's first baby step in the direction of spiritual evolution, and this was rejected by the Pharisees because they have a elitist philosophy that the Jews, essentially, they represent the Jews, are a chosen people, and that they will rule the world. And that's why they couldn't accept Jesus' message, because they can't accept universal brotherhood because they're elitists and they're going to rule. So they have a elitist philosophy that basically is transferable to any and all elites, if you follow me.
Yes.
And so this banking cartel pretty well has shrouded itself in this elitist philosophy, which essentially enthrones man, in other words, themselves as God. And everything about modernism is man is God, but not just any man. They are God. They are going to define reality. And that's what we see happening in Mark. Total disregard for what is objectively true, an unconcern with what is objectively just. They are going to disregard reality, disregard natural and spiritual laws, and they're going to redefine the truth. And that is what characterizes modernism. God doesn't exist. Man is alone in the universe. Man will define truth, which essentially means these rich men are going to define truth.
Okay. Henry, you wrote something that it disturbed me a little bit, but I want you to explain to me exactly why you said it and how you see things, that's what's going on in the world today. You said, I'm a non-observant Jew who believes this situation is lethal for humanity and Jews alike. We have already seen the tragic consequences of it in World War II. What in the world are you talking about?
Well, the reason for anti-Semitism is that these rich bankers, this banking cartel, they essentially fund organized Jewry. And now, not all Jews are part of organized Jewry, right? But a certain segment belong to Jewish organizations. And so essentially, Jews, and this is the cause of anti-Semitism, is that Jews are identified with this one world elitist agenda, which essentially means the death and eradication of all nations, because we're going to have one world, religion, family, and race. It's all going to be one world. So naturally, if Jews are identified with that agenda, anyone who opposes that agenda is going to feel anti-Semitic. But they just as well might feel anti-Masonic, because the Masons are identified with that agenda too. If you understand what I'm saying? But why it's lethal is that this is basically making any Jews that are part of this one world agenda, if it fails, they're going to basically take it on the chin. No. They're going to be the object of the resentment.
Okay, Harry, I want to go back to that same comment and I mean, for you to say that, then you're saying that, when you say we have already seen the tragic consequences of it in World War II, then you are concerned that what happened in World War II could happen again. And if you are you seeing any similarities from before or pre-World War II that led to what happened to the Jews in World War II? Are you seeing any similarities today?
I believe that Jews. Well, first of all, a lot of people. There was a lot of ethnic cleansing that took place in World War II, but I believe that there was an agenda behind the ethnic cleansing of the Jews. It was done deliberately. Zionist leaders deliberately abandoned Jews because they needed to create an argument for the establishment of the State of Israel. So in a sense, Israel wasn't created to save the Jews. A lot of Jews died in order to create Israel. And I feel strongly that my own grandparents died in the Holocaust, and I believe that's the real reason.
Okay, so what would be the reason?
And you want the parallel today is this: it's quite possible that in any showdown, it's quite possible, since the real purpose is to establish a Masonic world order, it's quite possible that they're going to want to eliminate this Jewish nationalism, which is Zionism, which is only a instrument, a means to an end. So it's quite possible that in any kind of shootout, Tel Aviv and Haifa might receive lethal blows. I'm just saying there's the parallel. You see what I'm saying? There's parallels. There's a larger agenda here in which Jews are just being used, in my opinion.
Now, Henry, when you say Tel Aviv and Haifa receive, lethal hits or whatever, by whom?
By Iran. I can't pretend to have special knowledge here, but what I'm trying to say is, if you look at the Israeli Supreme Court, there's pictures of the new Israeli Supreme Court on the internet. It's full of Masonic symbolism, yet 90% of Israelis don't have a clue about Freemasonry. And they might wonder, what the hell is our Supreme Court doing full of Masonic symbolism? Now, this Supreme Court was designed and built and paid for by the Rothschilds.
Okay.
And essentially, the Rothschilds' agenda is this Masonic one world order. I don't think they really necessarily care about Jewish nationalism. That might just get in the
Henry,
way.
did you answer? I didn't hear you when I said who's going, where that lethal hit is going to come from?
I'm saying it could very well be that in a shootout, Iran would destroy Haifa and Tel Aviv. To my mind, I find it hard to believe that Iran doesn't already have nuclear weapons.
Well, I mean, if Iran has nuclear weapon, even if they come up with one nuclear weapon and they use it, Israel has 400 nuclear weapons. The United States have 10,000 nuclear weapons. And before that missile even gets off the ground from Iran, it will be coming down on top of Tehran. So,
well, you asked the question, how frankly, there's so much suffering in the world. I don't want to focus on this potential and possible suffering of the Jews.
Okay.
You asked the question. I'm telling you how I see it. I think,
but that doesn't explain. But that does not explain, though, Henry, your comment, which is I really think we need to study this even further to see if there are any parallels between what happened before World War II and now. When you say we have seen the tragic consequences of it in World War II, then you are thinking...
What I'm trying to say, Hesham, is that Jews are being duped and used just like every other segment of the population, Christians, Masons, Americans, you name it. We're all being duped and used for this to promote this eventual one world government, and which is being advanced through war. That's the way they do it.
Okay.
And naturally, all these agents, all these dupes are going to suffer casualties in war. That's what happens in war. That's my point.
Okay, Henry, stay with me. We're going to the phones with Stanley on line 1. Go ahead, Stanley.
Yes, hello.
Yes, hi.
Yes, Dr. Tillawi?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
First, let me say that I really enjoy your show a lot, and I think it's great that Dr. Makow is also on. Both of you are permanently right there in my browser, bookmarked as my favorites.
Thank you.
It's really great. And I also like to thank Dr. Makow because his website is just so informative, and I always check in with him and see what he has to say. But, like everything, I don't agree with all the stuff he posts. I think there's some other better evidence out there, and some of it's not that good, but he's really impresses me. I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed what he said about the idea of this divine culture of man, and as I travel to the U.S. and Canada and Europe, I can't help but see, especially with young people, where degeneracy is disguised or is confused with being hip or hipness. The trashy sexual clothing, the tattoos, the unbelievable piercings, and etc. So I really identify with that, and I
So, Stanley, how do you see that the music, the tattoos, the piercing, all that, how do you see that as a degenerating factor for the society and for religion? How do you see it? Because, they can take a look back at 30 years back and say, well, your parents and grandparents saw the same thing in you with the long hair and, whatever people used to do 30 years ago. Is this, do we really see this as a permanent degeneration in culture, or is there a way back? Can we get back on track here?
Yes, we can. But I liked what profoundly struck me was what Solzhenitsyn said in regard to the tragedy that occurred to Russia. And he said, we forgot God. And I think that, yes, we can point back to 30 years ago, and I think that if we look back 30 years ago, we can see the beginning of what's coming to fruition now. Yes, the youth has always been somewhat rebellious, and of course, but frankly, at this point in time, it's to me satanic in its expression.
Well, that's hold on. Let me bring Harry into the mix. Harry, Stanley said it's satanic. Isn't that part of religion?
Yes, it definitely is. It's satanic, and the bottom line is these Pharisees who started Freemasonry, they're basically Satanists. If you look at the history of Jewish-Christian relations for over 1,000 years, the Christians saw the Jews as devil worshippers. So essentially, if modern culture is Judeo-Masonic, it's essentially satanic in the sense that we're making man God, and essentially making men who are driven by golden lust God. We're essentially being indoctrinated into a satanic cult. We're all becoming part, through the media, of one big satanic religion.
Okay, is Satan winning, Henry?
Oh, definitely. There's,
Stanley?
In the last 20 years, it's measurable.
Yes, he is winning now.
Stuff that would be regarded as being 20, even 20 years ago is acceptable now.
He will lose.
It's unbelievable. It's like the toilet has
hold on, Stanley, hold on a second with me. Go ahead, Henry. I'm sorry.
The toilet has backed up. There is just it's just all about whether man has a soul and a body. Now, if a man has a soul as well as a body, then the soul is going to refine and restrain the body. but everything we see in the mass media today says man has no soul. He's just a body. He's just an animal, a beast of burden, who's going to be trained and culled. And if you look at the media, you never see any real evidence of a belief in an objective moral order. You just see animal appetite being celebrated, and you see all the things that make us human, that did make us human, being attacked and undermined.
Okay.
I had an article on my website. The mass media drives our descent into decadence. Just analyzing one television show, My Name is Earl, in which essentially Earl sleeps with his best friend's mother, and his best friend wants to take revenge by sleeping with Earl's mother. I mean, it's just a blatant attack on the sanctity of the family. It's disgusting. It's obscene. And it just goes on and on. If you look at what's happening to tweens with these music videos, they're turning young girls into sluts. They've taken away the idea that women have to consecrate themselves for their husbands and their families and save their virginity and sexuality as a sacrament of marriage. And they're turning these girls into whores who will never be fit to be mothers and wives.
Okay. Stanley, you were saying something?
Yes. Well, I do have a question for the, Dr. Makow. And you touched on it briefly where you started speaking about Israeli nuclear weapons and possible Iranian nuclear weapons. And my experience, 26 years in the military, retired, is, and I saw it way back in the 80s. The American government, in my opinion, is cooking up and has begun World War III. And my opinion is that they believe that nuclear weapons are not an option, that they are the center of their military planning to be able to do what they want to do with the forces they currently have. And they also believe it's survivable. I'd like to ask Dr. Makow his opinion on nuclear war as a primary, a primary reason, a primary weapon as we go to take over the world, whoever they might be. And and one other thing,
yes,
Dr. Makow mentioned.
Yeah, let's wrap it up there, Stanley.
Huh?
Go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay. Yes. He did mention he didn't know if Jesus was God, and he wished someone would tell him. And I'm here to tell him that yes, he is God, and that's the difference between Muslims and Jews and Christians.
So I guess Henry's kind of sitting in between, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you very much, and thank you for all the great work you do. Goodbye.
Thank you, Stanley.
I'm glad to hear that Jesus is God, and I'd be happy to embrace him. I mean, that's not an. I believe Jesus expresses the will of God, and I'm prepared to be enlightened further.
Okay.
But,
well, now, Henry, you're not really too far from what Muslims believe, because, Muslims do recognize Jesus as his message as the continuation message of Abraham. They don't see him as God, but they see him as carrying the same message. But I'll tell you what, we're going to go back to the phones. People are waiting. Let's go with Sophie on two. Go ahead, Sophie.
Hello, yes, hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My question is two. The first one that really surprised me was when the host said that Iran would attack Israel.
Okay.
Which was, to me, so outrageous.
Yeah, to me too.
Number one, Iran is at risk. The drums of war are beating. And for this host to say that Iran would be attacking Israel at this point in time...
I'm the host. He's the guest.
Yeah, could
I'm sorry, you're the host. Okay, that's the first question that I have.
Israel. I said,
and then the question was asked, but it was never answered.
Okay. Henry, hold on a second, Henry, for me. Hold on. Go ahead, Sophie.
Okay, what I'm saying is that, Hesham did ask the question, which was in a very brilliant way. He asked him, how is it possible that Iran can attack Israel with when Israel has 400 nukes, number one, and then it had the United States to back it up. That's my first question. My second question is, in the beginning, the guest was saying that the British are the ones who created Zionism. Well, if that's the case, then why was it that the Jews killed so many of the British when the Zionist state was being established?
Okay. Thank you, Sophie.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Henry?
Well, I'm not sure if I heard the first part of the question is, no, I don't believe Iran would attack Israel, but I believe that Iran has stated that if they were attacked, if their nuclear facilities were attacked by Israel, they would retaliate.
But you know what, Henry? Iran does not really have, and she's right when she says Iran is at risk. Iran does not have a navy to really speak of, a navy that can go across to Israel and attack it, or even an air force that can really substantially hurt the Israelis. And we know that, the world knows that, and she's right when she says it's got the United States over there to back her up. So really, Iran here is probably is really at risk here if that happens. Don't you think?
Well, yes, of course, Iran is at risk. I'm just saying I don't. I believe they have. I believe they have the ability to retaliate. They say so themselves.
Well, they have the ability to retaliate. They can throw a couple of missiles like Hezbollah did.
I'm just listening to what they say.
Okay.
What was the second part of her question?
Now, I was going to ask you that. The second part of her question, I forgot what her second question was.
Is she still there?
Yeah, no, she's gone. And I don't know. I forgot. I apologize. Okay, I'm going with Judy on 3. Go ahead, Judy.
Oh, I'm on?
Yes.
Oh, I had this time lapse with the television. I just wanted to know.
Oh, Judy, hold on a second. Henry, the second part of her question was Zionist and the British, that the British created Zionism. Judy, hold on, and I'll put you on once she answers.
Yeah, I remember now. She's, why did the British then resist Jewish immigration if they in fact created Zionism? Is that right?
And also that the Zionists killed the British later on.
Yeah, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, they operate from behind the scenes, and it's not always clear how their hand is working, and often they will allow trends that seem to be contradictory to take place. The bottom line is that in 1948, when it really mattered, they were there to make sure that Israel won that 48 war.
Okay. Judy, go ahead.
Oh, I was trying to get that. I'd like to hear. I didn't know that the Zionists killed the British. Anyway, I just wanted to know if Henry was familiar at all with the work of Michael Kazarian, and if he believed that originally the Pharisees was this Egyptian cult called the Cult of Aten, which were Luciferian. They were a soul-worshipping cult, which got thrown out of Egypt, and several times bounced back and kept getting thrown out, and they did vow at that point that they were going to take over the world.
Well, I'm not intimately familiar with Michael Kazarian. I've listened to him and find him very stimulating. But that would be consistent in the fact that essentially we have men making themselves gods and imposing a new reality on the rest of the human race, and a oligarchy and a tyranny.
Okay. Judy, anything else?
I didn't hear his response at all, so...
Okay. I guess you'll see the reruns and it will have a better sound for you. Thank you, Judy.
Bill O'Reilly.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, Judy from New York. Henry, we have a few minutes left. Now, what what is it going to take to get the world back on track? Right now, number one, we have more than 50% this year. Single parent homes is 50%. It's like more than 50% in the United States, which means a house without either a father or a mother. And things are going really and speedily, I might add, for the worst. You have one thing that religion taught.
These things are all happening because they're being deliberately made to happen. And
Okay.
It's simply a question of the people who have their hands on the helm turning the boat in a different direction. They created feminism in 40 years. They could turn it around in 20.
So, Henry, are you saying that...
Go ahead.
Okay, are you saying that taking mothers out of the house was the problem?
It was part of the problem. It was part of the agenda. Everything that's happening now is intentional. It's deliberate. So if you say, how do we turn it around? Essentially, these people have to have a change of heart. If they're not going to have a change of heart, the central banks have got to be nationalized, so they really do belong to the people, and the legislatures do have to reflect the best interest of the people. Essentially, we have a situation where the countries of this world are like people where the heads have been removed or lobotomized, but I'd say removed, and a different head has been put on. Essentially, the mind and the will and the heart is self-destructive. It's because they're following a different agenda, an agenda which involves the destruction of the nations, the decline of the human race into a kind of servitude. So anything that's happening is totally deliberate, and it's not going to change until that leadership group is changed or have a change of heart.
Now, Henry, we only have like 1 minute left. Now, I know the world has went through worse times or worst period when it comes to the moralities and religions and all this. Don't you think we're just taking it too much when we really look at it that way? We only have 20 seconds.
Well, every time things gotten this decadent, there was some kind of a crash, like the Roman Empire crashed, and I think we're in for some kind of a crash. It may not be in my lifetime. I have about 20 years to live, but it's definitely going to happen in the next 50 years.
Very good. Dr. Henry Makow, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Henry, for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Hesham.
Thanks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, like we said, we bring them to you, and you decide. You decide what you hear on this show. But definitely it's something to think about. Definitely I can tell you that from what I'm seeing is the society is degenerating, and I'm thinking like the way people used to respect their mothers. I can tell you that it's totally different now. I mean, mothers at one time, and even in my lifetime, they were almost close to being worshipped. That's how people respected their mothers, and mothers sacrificed for their children and for their husbands. And I think that's what religion teaches, to sacrifice, and at the same time the man will have to sacrifice too. But I really do believe that this society, material society that we are in, where you took the mother out of the house, and who's raising the children? Fox and Hollywood. So I guess they are programming us for this dark journey to the unknown. We will be back in 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, with Donald Wagner and the Christian right or the Christian wrong. Don't go too far. 4 minutes.
This week in history. In 1825, after no presidential candidate receives a majority of electoral votes, the United States House of Representatives elects John Quincy Adams President of the United States. In 1837, Richard Johnson becomes the first Vice President of the United States, chosen by the United States Senate. In 1914, Charlie Chaplin first appears as the Tramp. as his first film, Kid Auto Races at Venice, is released at Keystone Studios. In 1950, Second Red Scare. Senator Joseph McCarthy accuses the United States State Department of being filled with communists. In 1952, Elizabeth II becomes queen upon the death of her father, George VI. At the exact moment of succession, she was in a treehouse at the Treetops Hotel in Vienna. In 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower warns against United States intervention in Vietnam. In 1967, the 25th Amendment to the United States Constitution ratified. The 25th Amendment of the United States Constitution clarifies an ambiguous provision of the Constitution regarding succession to the presidency, and establishes procedures both for filling a vacancy in the office of the Vice President, as well as responding to presidential disabilities. In 1968, the civil rights protest staged at a white-only bowling alley in Warrensburg, South Carolina, is broken up by highway patrolmen, leading to the deaths of 3 college students. In 1978, the blizzard of 1978, one of the worst nor'easters in New England history, hit the region with sustained winds of 65 miles per hour and a snowfall of 4 inches an hour. In